Babe, we pretty much convinced everyone that watched the Nagatorio video that the show is a lot more wholesome than people give it credit for. But I really, really don't think we can get people to root for a guy who literally should be on an FBI's most wanted list.
But the character writing is really good, and the direction is amazing, and the premise is at the very, very least interesting.
That's all true, but we need an X factor to really get people on board.
Alright, consider this. It's really fucking hot.
Yeah, alright. Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart, and yeah, we're really doing this today. Before we begin though, this is your one and only content warning. The character we are looking at today is not a good guy, and the subject matter of the show that we're talking about is very mature. The content in this show is so intense that my channel manager has advised me on multiple occasions to not cover it. My editors and co-writers refuse to watch it, and many of my viewers have threatened to unsubscribe if I even bring it up. And you know what? I really don't care anymore. I want to talk about this show, and I've wanted to talk about it for a very long time. The show is better than most people are giving it credit for, and it's frustrating to me that a good portion of the internet hates this show on premise alone without even seeing what could be gained from it. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that my videos have a standard format: an intro, some history, the ding portion, and my final thoughts. Expect this particular video to have a very lengthy and deeper final thoughts section than normal. Most people click off after the ding portion of the video, and I really need you guys to stick around for this one. This is an extremely controversial character, and extremely controversial characters make for the most fun discussions in my eyes. Yeah, the meme and comedy characters get the most views, but the real fun and juicy discussions for me are the ones where we really get to tear into their psyche. But enough with the primer. Many fans might be asking, who exactly are we talking about today? And that is none other than Keyaru, or Keyaruga, from the extremely controversial anime Redo of Healer. Keyaru was a young boy born into the world of high fantasy with a weird RPG twist to it. In their world, most humans are born with a limited potential set as a level cap, around level 20 to 30. There are exceptional legendary humans, monsters, and demons around level 60 or so, and then there are the handful of individuals labeled as heroes in the world. There are less than 10 heroes in the world, chosen by God, and each are given a unique set of magic and skills, including the unique trait of having no level cap and the ability to increase the level cap of others by... Yep, it's one of those stories. The tone of this story is something as if you combine Game of Thrones with Fate Stay Night. The story gets dark very quickly as we learn that Keyaru is one of these legendary heroes and is recruited by the kingdom led by their monstrous king and their daughter, fellow hero Princess Flare. Shortly after being recruited, it is revealed that Keyaru is the hero of recovery and is of the healer class, meaning unlike the heroes of magic, sword, and bullet, his powers are much more support and subtlety. Also, his magic works very oddly, like no other healer you'd expect from most RPGs. Keyaru's healing abilities forces him to experience the pain and memories of those that he recovered. Considering his first major heal was a woman whose arm was torn off in war, the pain of the experience caused him to pass out, and he refused to work as a healer anymore. Rather than trying to work with him slowly back into hero work, Princess Flare instead elects to drug and torture him until he complies. For the next 4 years, from the ages of 14 to 18, he was subjected to endless assaults from both male and female soldiers, worse than any heal bot you can possibly imagine. However, during this time, we learn that Keyaru gained the ability to resist the drugs that he was forced and bided his time until he could figure a way out. That way out presents itself in episode 1 as the heroes of the story go up against the Demon King. Keyaru slays the Demon King using corrupted magic he learned throughout his years, and then takes her dropped artifact, the Philosopher's Stone. In conjunction with his vaguely defined set of powers, he then heals the world and rewinds time to before his journey begins. His goal in doing so was so that he could exact revenge on everyone who wronged him in his old life and use the knowledge of future events to twist things to his own pleasures. And this is where the controversy of the show takes place. This kid has had years of the worst kind of abuse and torture done to him, and he jigsaws his way through a new timeline, doing even worse to others. It can get really intense, especially in the early episodes. However, we are actually going to give Keyaru the benefit of the doubt starting the series. Since he begins episode 1, literally being robbed of agency of his own mind for the last 4 years, we are going to set Keyaru's starting alignment at true neutral. Because unfortunately his entire adolescence was robbed of him, and aside from blind rage, he has literally nothing else to go on. Again guys, this is going to be rough. I will do my best to edit around everything, but shit's gonna get wild! And with that out of the way, let's go!
貴様は何者だ? 癒しの勇者ケアル、回復術師だ。だがただ癒すだけじゃない。 In episode 1, the first thing we see Keyaru do is ignore his comrade's demands for healing and then slays the Demon King. Since this was really the first thing he can ascribe to his own actions, this is where we will start. Once he slays the Demon King, he sees that she dies full of regret, and he assures her that he will restart their lives undoing his actions. He then immediately does this with the ridiculous powers not only to attain revenge, but to prevent the other heroes from casting a domination spell over the planet. Let's just call this neutral. そうか、そうだったのか。自分を取り戻したよ。ありがとう。
This is actually an anime-only scene. In the anime, Keyaru lost all of his memories and stumbled onto a fairy fountain that somehow gave him back all of his memories, and in the manga, he goes looking for it. Either way, after rewinding time, he begins to eat hallucinogenic mushrooms and plants in order to gain a drug immunity trait faster. Let's just call this neutral.
誕生日が来て、俺は1周目の人生と同じく勇者に選ばれた。
After a time, he becomes magically branded as a hero. Princess Flare comes to his humble village and he plays along, heading to the capital, simply casing and planning his operations. Neutral again.
何?
This one is harder to judge. Basically, some maids appear in his room at night to sleep with him. He knows they are doing this in order to increase their level cap. He somehow steals the experience that they gained from him, and since they are basically only sleeping with him for their own gains, he's just kinda taking something without hurting them, I guess? We'll call this chaotic neutral since both parties are kinda scummy here. Though, if you want to say neutral evil, I wouldn't argue with you, since this is sex under false pretenses.
あなたが癒しの勇者ケアル様ね。
はい、出会えて光栄です。剣聖クレハクライレット様。
After a few days of fun, Keyaru is visited by a kensei, or a sword saint, who lost her arm in combat. He manages to regenerate her arm, but passes out from the nature of how his magic works. It's at this point where Princess Flare reveals what a piece of shit she is by commanding her court magician to perform experiments on him against his will. It's at this point where he makes the final decision to carry out his revenge plot, now that he has confirmed how awful she is. Neutral.
この紅茶を飲むのは勇気がいるな。
This is honestly the point that I struggled with the most. Keyaru knows that if he refuses to act as healer, he would then go through months of torture and assault and eventually forced at drug point to be a hero. He chooses to drink this poison tea not only to build up his drug resistance, but it's also curious as to why he didn't just use the palace resources to make himself a better hero. I think this is honestly one of the most interesting dilemmas the show raises, and I'll come back to this in the post-analysis, so please stick around after the dings. Neutral.
レナード、一体何のつもり？
レナード、俺のことか？ヒール。
After months of abuse, Keyaru manages to resist the drugs, escape, and go to Princess Flare's room, and begins to brutally torture her. Something I want to bring up is a lot of people get on me about how I do these alignment dings. In my Omni-Man video, I was especially criticized for the fact that I made the genocide worth the same amount as playing catch with his son. The only reason I counted it once is because Omni-Man was quick and made it over in seconds. In this instance, Keyaru's torture of Flare is slow, methodical, and extremely personal, torturing her body as a negative stimuli and then assaults her as a woman. This slow torture is not only done to make her last moments as painful as possible, but also as humiliating as possible. Chaotic evil, twice.
お前の記憶を消して顔を変えてやる。
Then, to add insult to injury, he erases her memory and turns her into his slave. Princess Flare, for all intents and purposes, is dead, and now her body is occupied by a personality that Keyaru has made. He changes his name to Keyaruga and continues his quest for revenge. Also, to cover for himself, he frames the captain of the guard and then leaves him to take the fall. Chaotic evil.
合わせて28個今回用意してあります。一つ金貨1枚でいかがですか？ Keyaruga enters a village nearby with Freya and discovers that people are sick with poison in the local river. He elects to make a deal with some local distributors and supplies them with potions for money. Because we don't know exactly what these gold pieces are worth, I can't really determine if he's selling life-saving medicine at an insane markup, so for now, I'll call this lawful neutral. After Keyaruga earns this money, he goes and buys a slave from the local market. He picks best girl Setsuna of the Ice Wolf clan and takes her back to his room. Buying slaves is lawful evil. Shortly afterwards, with the help of Freya, he convinces Setsuna to join the party freely. He promises her revenge against the humans who hurt and enslaved her. By sleeping with her, he manages to increase her level cap and make her stronger. The fact that this relationship begins transactionally and with the promise of blood makes this alliance lawful evil. Just as promised, Keyaruga takes Setsuna to the Frostwolf village to kill soldiers who are attacking it. Keyaruga disguises himself as the Blade Hero and begins slaughtering soldiers in both in the name of justice and Setsuna. After wiping out a significant number of the soldiers, he lets Setsuna clean up and get revenge. Lawful evil. They then learn that the poison from the nearby town was caused by the Frostwolf clan themselves by leaking monster blood into the water supply. Keyaruga allows Setsuna the opportunity to decide if the poison stays or if he cures the town. Setsuna elects to cure the poison because 1, she doesn't want innocent people to suffer, and 2, she wants to continue to kill humans with her bare wolf claws. They cure the poison and vow to kill many, many more humans, and they seal the deal. As you'd expect with this point. Setsuna also tells Keyaruga her true name, which cements her as his slave for the rest of her natural life. Lawful evil. So I can't show this anymore, but what's happening here is Keyaruga has Setsuna and Freya become more familiar with each other. Freya is into it because I'm guessing she's programmed to be now, but Setsuna is clearly a little uncomfortable with it. She even says that she prefers privacy, but Keyaruga doesn't care. I think at best this is chaotic neutral, but like, if y'all want to call it something else, feel free. I also am going to give this a nat 20 scene because brain just go burr sometimes. Also, check again, post-analysis, this is important. Also, context time. Alex and I liked this scene so much that we made plush pillows of these 3 characters. Yes, I really actually did this. And I also made a bet with our friend Megami33 that if we can sell 20 of these pillows through YouTube, she'll do a cover of the opening theme on her channel, Megami33. Head to loadingcrewcrafts.com and get a pillow so I can get an opening cover, please. Also, subscribe to her channel and say I sent you. See ya, guys! After their group bonding activities, they head back to town to a random bum who offers to buy Setsuna from Keyaruga. He offers a single gold coin, which is actually a really bad deal considering I think he paid 22 coins for Setsuna in the first place. A fight occurs and they learn that the bum is a deserter from the fight in the last episode, so they kill him for poops and giggles. They say it's because he abandoned his post, but we all know it's just them justifying it to themselves. Chaotic evil. They then reach the tavern where the merchants they met earlier try to strong-arm Keyaruga into giving them the recipe for the antidote. Considering the fact that he pretty much solves the problem in the last episode, and he has nothing more to gain by selling them potions, he gives them the recipe for 500 gold pieces, even though he neglected to tell them that they need a special antibody made from his blood to make it work. Lawful evil. The party is then attacked by Sword Saint Kureha. The party is then attacked by Sword Saint Kureha. I think her name is supposed to be Claire in English. The girl whose arm he regenerated from earlier on. She attacks Freya and he takes it personally because she damaged his property. He defeats her in a pretty decent fight scene by regenerating his arm and KOing her by showing her memories of the atrocities the soldiers committed. Neutral.
あなたは間違ってはいません。王国の牽制として 正しい行動をとってきただけです。
Later that evening, he revives her using Freya as a prop, gaslights her into believing that he and the princess defected from the kingdom for truth and justice and to bring peace to the world. A lot of what he tells her is technically true, though through a really twisted point of view, and he's bringing justice to certain places that he goes, but this is obviously gaslighting. Through guilt, prevarication, and the help of an aphrodisiac, he convinces the most noble character in the series to side with him and seal the deal as we've come to expect. Lawful evil.
長が癒しの勇者の育ての親とかいう女を村人全員の前で犯した時が最高だった。
At the beginning of episode 6, we learn that the Captain Guard Renard destroyed, violated, and captured dozens of people from Keyaruga's village, including the woman who raised him. After he learned about this, Keyaruga went into immediate action and captured him, transmuted him into a girl, and then had him violated by his own drug-infused troops, and then burnt them to death. While this is somewhat justified, this is without a doubt chaotic evil. After murdering the captain in a horrific way, he attempts to rescue the girl that raised him, but is unfortunately too late. She died literal seconds before he could get to her. This is neutral good, but keep in mind that he would have made it if he didn't waste his time torturing Renard. I'm also about to drop more information in the next ding that might invalidate this, but neutral good.
落ち込んだ時、誰かの体温を感じると楽になる。鬱陶しくなったらおっしゃってください。出て行きますから。
今日は優しくしてやれない。
I don't know what it says about me that I keep giving the threesome scenes nat 20s, but I feel this one is justified. Keyaruga charges into the captain's quarters and attempts to rescue Anna. She dies just before he could reach her, and later that night he fucks Setsuna and Freya out of frustration and grief. This scene is really good because it shows one of the few times Keyaruga being completely genuine and sincere in his emotions. In the manga, it was so much more cruel, too. Anna committed suicide after her assault, thinking Keyaru completely turned on her. Either way, Keyaruga tries to bury his feelings in carnal relief and feels nothing from this. Nat 20 scene, chaotic neutral.
邪教の村に住むこの者たちはさらにその歪んだ教えが癒しの勇者ケアルをも邪悪に落とし
A few days later, the party learns that everyone else in his village will be executed as heretics if the healer hero doesn't turn himself in. He heads to the colosseum and reveals himself and begins killing guards. The guards then begin killing hostages on stage, and he really isn't doing anything to stop it. The executioner blames him for the villager's death, but he just kind of pulls the reverse Uno card out and rightfully demonstrates that he's there to free the hostages. He and Freya reveal that she and him are out saving the world, and they convince the audience to turn on the executioner. While Keyaruga does manage to save like 10 villagers, he did a shit job of saving his hometown and used their deaths as justification for his revenge. We're just gonna call this whole demonstration neutral evil.
そいつは俺のせいで村が襲われたと思っている。
訂正をすればいいのですね。
違う。ほっといてやってくれ。
That evening, Keyaruga passes off the boy he rescued and the other villagers to the merchants from earlier and pays for their safe relocation. He also lets them believe that he was the one solely responsible for the death of the village, thinking that their bitterness and spite would keep them alive, and if they live for revenge against him, so be it. In his own messed up mind, this is the nicest thing he could do for the villagers, so weirdly, chaotic good.
お邪魔します。
Our party arrives in Brianka and head to the tavern where they conveniently run into the Demon King from the alternate future. They learn through some exposition that their demon species, the Black Wings, are being exterminated by the incumbent king. Some assassins appear and Keyaruga rescues her with the intent of helping her overthrow the current Demon King and crown her for his own benefit. He explains his plan to her and she elects to think it over for the night. Since Keyaruga is continuing his own plans, let's call this lawful evil. Give me some credit, I'm actually giving this scene a nat 1. In the manga, this scene had a completely different energy to it, and since he was only sleeping with Setsuna in order to increase her level cap, this was just a means to an end. In the anime, they did this to give us a sex scene in this episode and to unironically do that dick shadow thing. This is actually really annoying and a nat 1 scene and chaotic neutral.
途中で拒絶してケヤルガ様に気を使わせるなんて失礼ですよ。
What the
fuck? This is still going? We're in the next episode, and now they're shaming her for not joining. What the fuck is this scene? Can we move on? This wasn't in the manga. What is this?
刹那は左から攻めろ。ためらわずに殺せ。
Episode 9 isn't filler per se, but it's more business as usual. Keyaruga and Setsuna agree to wipe out the assassins that are after Eve. They do and use some dirty tactics to get what they want, but also leave them for dead, so lawful evil.
そのケアルガたち私がいても普通にするから気まずいんだよ。
ないね。襲撃者はまた現れる。
Also, Keyaruga is harassing Eve by continuing to have threesomes in front of her despite the fact that she asked them to stop. By the logic of the show, he could discreetly increase Setsuna's level cap while being quiet, but they're choosing to go all out in front of her just to normalize it to her. This is arguably one of the most messed up things you can do to an ally. Also, they go shopping for magic stabs and Flair's sisters in town. That's not anything but chaotic evil.
おもちゃとはいえ、俺のものをあんな奴に壊されるのは尺に触る。奴への餌は。
After meeting with the merchant from the last episode, Keyaruga learns that the hero of the sword is, lesbian serial rapist who has become a menace to the town. After learning this, rather than risking his girls, Keyaruga elects to disguise himself as a woman and handle the problem. He does this not only to protect his toys, but there is also some nobility to this as he protects the victim's father by KOing him rather than letting the sword hero obliterate him. He then sets up a trap and disables the hero. Weirdly chaotic good?
それと強力な媚薬もな。その3人の性欲が食欲に勝っている間だけは朝までそいつらを満足させて食われずに生き延びたら逃がしてやる。簡単だろ?
Which then he immediately whips back around to chaotic evil because, well, Keyaruga is a pretty sick puppy. Chaotic evil.
勇者であるお前にと世界を救う覚悟があるか。
もちろんだ。
After killing Blade, Keyaruga takes her weapon and makes a pact with the god it's attached to, claiming that he'll save the world because he considers it his precious plaything. The god transforms the divine weapon into the gauntlet, and then he celebrates with Freya and Setsuna. I don't know why I find that so funny, but lawful evil. A few days later, Flair's sister Norn enacts a plan to genocide all the demons by claiming they're magically brainwashing all the humans in Brianka. Keyaruga chooses not to get involved with this until his friend Carmen dies. He then vows to avenge him and free the town. Chaotic good.
悪いな。こいつは触れなくても解約のヒールが使えるんだ。
To do this, he kills Hawkeye and captures Norn. He then forces Wincest to happen and then erases Norn's personality and replaces it with the girl who raised him, but a younger sister version of her? Sick and kinda sad, but chaotic evil.
クレハはどうしてここに?
ケアルガが心配だったから。でも無駄足だったわね。
After the party has a party, he gives a farewell to Anna and Carmen and leaves the town with the intent of taking over the world. Chaotic neutral, actually, since part of this was dedicated to them.
すべての復讐を果たして、その先にどんな明るい未来が待っているのか、とても楽しみだ。
I think the most obvious question I should address is, why did I choose to review this character? It's obvious by the premise alone that this character is evil, and that this defies most people's sense of taste. The biggest reason why I'm so fascinated with this show, and by extension these characters, is because everyone keeps telling me I'm not allowed to be. Whenever someone online says something like, people who watch this show are sick in the head, or fans of this show are garbage people, or fans of this show are sick freaks, this type of rhetoric needs to stop right now. You have no idea what people go through when they watch or enjoy something like this. Yes, it is probably upsetting some people, but do you know who are the biggest fans of this show and who they tend to be? They're people like Keyaru, not overpowered chosen ones, but people who have been emotionally, physically, or sexually abused. They are the ones that find it amazingly compelling that a character who was a normal kid, who then got thrust into an immense situation and then got taken advantage of in mind, body, of soul. I have interviewed more asexuals who have been abused who love this show more than straight men. They're the ones who get it. They're the ones who need this catharsis and this released. And it's satisfying to watch the most evil people imaginable get what's coming to them, and this immensely damaged and twisted kid is the ideal angel of justice to them.
And I really, really don't want to gatekeep fans here either. Maybe you just got screwed over one too many times at a bank, or maybe some kind of trust fund kid got a promotion at work, or hell, maybe you just like threesomes and non-con. Don't fucking kink shame me, my wife, or anyone else just because you're lucky enough to have normal taste either. If you're someone who doesn't like this series because you just are not into what the content is, I totally respect that. For real, I will not disrespect your experiences or your tastes. But you know what? You owe that same respect, that same benefit of the doubt, that same benefit of taste to everyone else who likes this. And you know what the best part about this series is? My favorite fucking thing about Keyaruga and the fact that he keeps getting what he wants, and he's getting all the revenge, all the sex, and all the brain burrs he could ever want. He's fucking miserable. Watch the Nat 20 scenes again and look at the dialogue and how the other characters that surround him feel about what he's doing. Keyaruga has a harem of women who love him, but that love comes with a big fucking asterisk. Freya exists as an empty puppet. She has no will of her own, and he has to constantly gaslight her memories and emotions in order to keep her at his side. He has her play this double role so often that her brain is basically a box of rocks. There is no person there to love him. Setsuna, best girl by the way, only loves Keyaruga because he was the only one willing to give her the catharsis she needs to kill those who attacked her village. She continues to be loyal to him because he has the tools to allow her to keep killing humans. Her love is not unconditional. If he doesn't provide her with ways to bathe in blood and increase her level cap, she would probably leave him just as quickly, which is why he had to seduce her true name out of her, because he knows if he didn't have a way to trap her, he would be without an ally. She even states that she isn't wild about the threesomes, but sticks with it because her master kinda makes her. Claire, or Correa, has to be completely gaslighted and practically drugged before she joined the harem, because if she found out exactly what Keyaru was doing to people, she would be disgusted and leave. And believe me, Keyaru is desperate for actual real emotional love. The only time we see him truly upset was when he discovered that his only family died. It made him so upset that he forced Norm to pretend to be his little sister, and his harem understood that he is so fucked up that none of them, including the paladin, didn't bat an eye when she joined the final celebrations. Keyaruga is so messed up because he was a normal kid who, despite being one of God's chosen ones, wasn't the correct class that the rest of the party wanted. The party would rather work with a child molesting priest than with him, just because he was born in the wrong class. Oh boy, that probably isn't an allegory for anything! The kid wasn't born the man that people in power wanted him to be. They used and abused him, and he became twisted and broken and gets revenge. The revenge isn't getting him what he wanted, because what he wanted was a simple, unconditional love, just like everyone else. Just like this show, he is rejected by people in society because he doesn't meet their arbitrary standards of decency. Thank you to the patrons, and I'll see you all next time.